Hey everybody, thanks for dropping on into the channel today. We're going to discuss the highest damaging longsword build you can build with a three-piece AT Rey set involving maximum weakness exploit instead of agitator. I had one in the previous video, but thanks to Hacks High in our Discord, he showed me a better one and it's testing amazingly and I want to show you guys. Also, we're going to show a couple of other builds using the same gut skills that you can use from other weapons, and a couple of builds that were requested by viewers. So enough yapping, let's get to it. Okay, this is the previous maximum weakness exploit three-piece arc tempered Raydow set we were using from the last video. It's still a phenomenal set, don't get me wrong. It's just this one that Hax showed me, Hax High from our Discord. He's an amazing hunter, amazing knowledge about all monster hunters. He's been playing this franchise forever. He's an amazing source for some information or feedback if you ever need any help in this game with builds or monsters or anything like that. Go Hax High. But anyways, what we're going to do here is we're going to use 4 pieces of the arc tempered Ray Dow. Sorry, 3 pieces are the head, the waist, and the legs. And the arms, we're going to use the good old Guardian Arc Veiled Vem braces for the 2 weakness exploit and the 3 1 slots for our quick sheet. And then the chest, we're going to use the Zoshia chest, which is probably the most efficient armor piece in the game. And we're going to deck it out like so. Max out your weakness exploit, your quick sheet, get that burst deco. We're going to have all the skills that we had in the previous build: critical boost, master's touch, weakness exploit, counter strike, maximum might. And now we're going to have stun resistance max and stamina surge max, which is really, really helpful. You do not have the Zoshia, super recovery or anything like that in the agitator build, but it's okay. You don't really need that. This is just a huge amount of damage that you're going to get specifically in agitation. So in the last build, you had Adrenaline Rush giving you a +10 when it's active. And what I've noticed is when the monster is not agitated, there's not a huge difference in the numbers between this build and the previous build that we use. But when the monster is agitated, you're getting that +8 for your attack, which is comparable to the Adrenaline Rush +10. But that +5 in affinity can really help out in a lot of different situations. So what I'm noticing is in agitation, I'm seeing a rather large difference in the numbers. Not in agitation, I don't see much of a difference in the numbers. So that's why I feel like this set is your... this is probably, if you're going to take a weakness exploit max set into doing some speed runs, this is the type of build you're going to want to use. I forgot to mention that we do round out this build with the counter charm level 3, of course, and the corrupted mantle. There is a little bit of comfort in this build as well with your stun resistance. You don't have the evade window, you don't have the super recovery like you do in the agitator version. But that stun resistance is really helpful. So is the stamina surge. It helps maintain your stamina, keep your maximum might active as much as possible. So let's break down the numbers real quick. The last set, you were definitely able to get 100% affinity. You're going to be a little bit less, but I'll still explain why this is slightly better. You're going to have 30% from your weakness exploit on wounds. You're going to have 30% from your maximum might. You're going to have 5% from your weapon. And once you do have your agitator active, that's an additional 5. That's 70. With latent power active, that gets up to 90. And when you do use your corrupted mantle, you can have an additional 10. So when you have your mantle, there are definitely times you can reach 100. But you're going to be a little bit less than 190 for most of the fight. But that's okay. Compared to this last build, Adrenaline Rush is nice when it's active, but there's just so many times in a fight that it is not going to activate when you constantly have knockdown after knockdown and rupturing a blue wound and then into a trap and then to an environmental hazard. Those kind of things really negate the effectiveness of Adrenaline Rush, where they kind of expand the effectiveness of Agitator. Because as long as the monster was agitated before those knockdowns, every one of those knockdowns, the monster can be agitated during, and you can get all your attack buffs. So this is why this set is the absolute highest damaging for now with the 3-piece ATRD set. One other point I want to make about this set as we go into the other builds, one thing that was pointed out to me that I really didn't realize, this is a group skill, the gut skill. So what that means is pretty much every arc-tempered version of a monster that comes out is probably going to have Lord Soul as a group skill, so we can mix and match three pieces of any arc-tempered monster to get this skill. In my opinion, this is probably going to be meta for much of the rest of the base game, is this specific Guts Tenacity skill, so you might as well start learning to put that into your builds and get used to using it, basically. Okay, let's talk about making a Partbreaker 3 build. You might be wondering why. I will link a video at the end of this video showing how you maximize the damage from focus strikes, and you can get that damage to some really juicy numbers in the low thousands to about 2,000 is where I'm hitting my cap on those. But part of that is going to have a build that has Partbreaker 3 for the additional 30% damage on top of those wound damages. And before, we could make some decent builds, but you always had to give up some damage skills like Agitator or Adrenaline Rush or sometimes Burst or whatever you could fit in there. But I think I've made the highest damage version of that so far, and it's kind of came up by mistake, actually. I was trying to make a 3-piece Arc-Tempered Rey Dow set with the bonus Guts, but I ended up making this one by mistake, and I thought I had made one with the 3-piece ATRD until I realized it hadn't. So then when I went back and tried to actually make one with the 3-piece, I couldn't stack as much damage and affinity as I could in this mistake build, and it's quite wonderful. So we're going to use the head and the waist of the Arc-Tempered Rey Dow. We're going to use our good old G Arc-Veld Vembraces and our Arc Vulcan Mail. And then we're going to use the Blango Greaves. Basically, we're going to get one level of Agitator from it, and we could not have Agitator in our previous Partbreaker build, so that's always a bonus for the attack bonus and the affinity. And with that, we're going to use 2 Partbreakers, and then we're going to put our other Partbreaker in the slot for the Arc Vulcan, put our Burst in there, get our normal 2 weakness exploits and quick sheet from our Vembraces, and the helm is going to give us another 2 tenderizes and a maximum might, and of course our waist gives us the maximum might and latent power. So let's talk about what this build actually does. You're going to have your 30% on your weakness exploit. Wonderful. We definitely want to max out weakness exploit in these types of builds, because other than the actual wound destruction damage with the longsword, there's a lot of other additional significant damage you can get by performing your focus strikes to make sure they hit other parts of the monster. Again, please check out that video. I know it's a little bit long, but I really wanted to be thorough about it to describe to anyone that might be new to the series too, how we're getting to those numbers and what process we're using. So weakness exploit max is a must, 30% right there. Maximum might is the additional 30, 5 in your weapon, 65, wonderful. We're going to get an additional 24 with the activation of latent power and agitator, and this kind of makes up for the 25 we were getting for the 2-piece gore bonus. It is conditional, of course, but I feel the agitator and the latent power combo is just much more powerful together than just the 2-piece gore bonus, if you know what I mean. Like the 4-piece gore bonus is different, it gives you additional attack, but the 2-piece is just affinity. So if you can supplant that affinity with other affinity granting skills, it's not so much of a downgrade, and it's either a side grade or really an upgrade, and in this case it's an upgrade. So yeah, this is how you're going to build that build. Here are the decorations, and this is going to be the build you can maximize wound destruction and focus strikes, especially when you're popping 3 or more wounds. When you start getting those blue wound 30% additional modifiers, it gets massive. Please check out that video. Other than that, it's the most additional raw damage you can have on the build as well. If I did a 3-piece with Arc-Tempered Rey Dow, I could not put Counter Strike in there and have Quick Sheath and have Partbreaker and have Burst. So the best way to get as much raw is the 25 from the Counter Strike, and then you got the 8 from the Burst, which is 33, and the Agitator gives you another 4, that's 37, and then you have your Partbreaker and your Weakness Exploit. You could do it up to 39 with the 3-piece for the raw, but then you start missing out on Quick Sheath or possibly Affinity, and with the Longsword, you gotta have your Quick Sheath and with the type of build we're trying to do, critical hits on the wounds, you got to have your weakness exploit. So there are two things that just could not be missing out of that. So this way, you get everything you need to get maximum damage on focus strikes, be able to get maximum play efficiency with your quick sheath, and get all the affinity you need to perform all those huge damage sequences. Yeah, that's about it for this build. Also, the 3-piece Arc-Tempered Rey Dao set goes really well, especially with Zoshia's 2-piece bonus, but really any 2-piece bonus, even the Gore bonus. I'm not going to show any of the Gore builds just because I think the Zoshias are a little bit better. But yeah, you can do a lot of cool things with these builds. And right here, this is basically a general build that you can use for any weapon where keeping maximum might up is not an issue. Basically not stamina depleting weapons like the bow or the dual blades, but any most other weapons, you can go with this build and just add whatever weapon. Here we're going to do the switch axe, add whatever decos that are good for the switch axe in its actual weapon slots. Here we're going to have 3 levels of the enhancer, power prolonger, a handicraft, and 5 crit boosts. And yeah, this goes with any weapon that you might want to toy around with. You're going to have your 30% affinity from your weakness exploit. You're going to have your 20 raw and plus 15% affinity from the agitator. Your maximum might 30% affinity. You're going to have another 20% affinity from your latent power when that kicks in. Just really, really good stuff. Your affinity can be anything from your weapon, from your Arshan stuff. So it can be as little as 5 or as much as 15 or 20, whatever you want to do with it, whatever you want to play around with. It's just a really good set to just throw on and try whatever weapon that you want. Here I have 2 levels of Counter-Strike, but this deco you can be really flexible with. Maybe do a Partbreaker, Coalescence, Ambush, Evade, Window. You got 2 levels of Evade Extender, comfy. You got your Zoshia's Super Recovery, very comfy. And also, because of what we're doing with the builds in the Zoshia aspects, you got the Elemental Absorption. So anytime you take any elemental damage from whatever element, it's going to instantly boost the resistance to that element by 4, I think, at level 1. So it adds a lot of comfiness, it adds a lot of damage. You got most of your meta damage skills. You're not going to have all your, burst, adrenaline rush, but you tailor make those builds when the time comes. If you're like, hey, I like this weapon, I want to go deeper into it, and then you start tailor making those builds, and I'll just give you a couple of examples of that right now. And this is an example of a more specified build. This is going to be for my hunting horn. I like to run the Resounding Galahad and the War Conga. And the Galahad, I don't really run any handicraft because I have the Sharpness Song. So I run this with Attack Boost 5 and Critical Boost 1. You can also put another Slugger in there if you wanted to. But basically with a hunting horn, you don't get a lot of much usage out of weakness exploit. Some, don't get me wrong. It's just a lot of your notes don't crit hit, so their damage is influenced by raw and not by critical statuses, so the weakness exploit just isn't as great for it. So in a build like this, I want to maximize my agitator and then get as much other raw as I can put on there. You're still going to have all the perks of these specific 3 pieces for the Rey Dao. They generally don't change. And this time I'm going to use the Jin Dahad Greaves so I can have my agitator max that way, and a Evade Window 1. So in combination with Evade Extender, now I'm going to have additional iframes on that extended roll, and it just lets me catch more iframes to proc my Adrenaline Rush when I avoid something to get that plus 10. And then I have 1 level of Burst. Burst is not the greatest for the hunting horn, so you could supplant this with another counterattack if you wanted to, or maybe even another weakness exploit. It's really up to you. I'm not an expert on the hunting horn. I know there are some attacks, I think the slicing ones, that do crit hit, so maybe you do want some more weakness exploit in those situations, or gear it more towards the previous build. But this is just an example of using the 3-piece ATRD and getting that damage perk and then starting to build weapons based on top of that. Like I said, I really do feel like that's going to be kind of the meta until we get to like DLC content or maybe super late game in the beta, or sorry, the base game here. Counter-Strike 3 Charm, of course, Corrupted Mantle, of course, and the other one I want to take a look at, excuse me, my bad, it's just this Gun Lance build. This one we're going to use similar pieces, chest piece the same. The Mitsu Greaves, because now you have 2 levels of burst and 1 level 3. And for a gun lance, burst 5 is actually pretty decent, pretty good of a skill. Hacks High gave me another gun lance build that actually has 2 levels of earplugs that is really good, actually really good. But I just wanted to make this one with as much raw as I could add on to it, like I do with all my builds. So specific gun lance good stuff in the actual slottage here. We're going to use a magazine attack, artillery 3, and another attack jewel. Focus is really good here. Thanks 3 trees for letting me know. It reduces the time of your wyvern fire. So focus is always good, but again, I'm a bit of a damage whore, so I'm going for the attack here. And yeah, basically that's my point. Once you get to past the general build, you can take whatever weapon that you're actually looking to play and use these 3 pieces of the ATRD and generally this piece of the Zoshia, and do whatever you want with the Greaves to get whatever other set bonuses, or just maximize what type of skills. It's just a really, really awesome 3-piece set, and I really look forward to the rest of the Arc Tempered sets. This one really is awesome, kind of blew my mind of how much of a difference it is making to my damage numbers. So as the new ones come out, like Uthduna, Gore is going to be amazing. Jindahad, who's agitator based, is going to be amazing. God knows what the other Arc Tempers are going to look like. And then we're going to still have this gut skills to go along with it. So I'm really, really looking forward to how the ultimate build is going to look like by the time we're done with all the title updates. It's going to be really awesome, guys. Really awesome. All right, these builds are for one of our viewers, Kevin Uribe. I did not forget about you. It was a couple weeks ago that he asked about some Foray builds, especially when this Securitide set came out. So I just want to let you know how I was running it. First of all, I was using the Rathalos Sword, the Wyvern Blade Holly, mainly because you have the skill Poison Duration Up that extends the duration of poison by 20%. So your Foray would last longer, the plus 15 attack on it, and the plus 20%. Plus. Where is it? Yeah, plus 15 attack and plus 20% for the affinity. So in conjunction with that, it would just make it a bit nicer. The very best way to run this is with the Zoshia 2 Agitator piece and running a Counter-Strike Deco right there and a Agitator Charm. But I really didn't care about that because this was, the slottage on this set is just so poor that this isn't ever going to be considered any kind of higher damage set. But I was using it to farm, like the event quest, things like that, So I put on my Ajuricon waist so I could have Partbreaker 3. And that was just fun for me. I have a reduction in damage, but I'm still getting decent crits with my maximum might when my Foray is active. Plus 15% in the weapon base. So my crit rate was pretty decent. I just decided to have some fun. And I used my Counter-Strike 3 Charm to get that raw 25. And just had some fun with the Partbreaker. And would open up like 3 wounds. Pop them and just see big damage that way, because once you have Partbreaker in a build, nothing else really matters if you're trying to get those triple digit parts damage numbers that we were talking about earlier. So any build with Partbreaker 3 could accomplish that. So because I had such a reduction in overall damage, I had some fun with that. But let's talk about, he was just curious about what would be the most ideal build that you could use to build Foray into, and that will be this one. So we're going to take a foray into Foray here, as the request came in just to make the ultimate set you can using Foray. We're going to still use the Wyvern Blade Holly for the poison duration up, and the 15% affinity is just super nice. Now this is in no means comparable to some of our highest end damage builds that we've been talking about over the course, I'd say, of the past couple weeks now. But this is very fun. The damage isn't bad. It's just nowhere near some of the other stuff we've been talking about. But this is a really, really nice, comfy set. It's just fun to use. Try it out. You're going to have a good time. You're going to use the Zoshia helmet. You're going to use the Arc Vulcan chest and the Arc Vulcan waist for the skills. We're going to get our... we go. Weakness exploit 2 there. Let's just do the Vem braces. This is the odd piece. The Guild Ace Vem braces, mainly because you got one Foray built in, a level 3 slot that you can put another Foray into, because no other piece that has Foray is good slot-wise, so you're going to have to put your Foray into this build with the Foray charm and level 3 slots. And this is the one piece that's useful. Also, that peak performance is going to come to play in this build as well. The Greaves are going to use the Zoshia beta, and these are the final stats. Weakness exploit maxed out, so you got your 30% affinity right there. Foray, you're going to have your plus 15 raw, plus 20% affinity from that. During poisons, you're going to get at least 2. The duration's going to be 20% longer. Foray is not the greatest skill, but if you want to have some fun with it like this. Maximum might. Recovery speed 3 is built in, so you have your super recovery, level 1. Where it is? Where is it? There it is. And then you also have the Arc Vulcan recovery, the hastened recovery when you're doing damage by striking the monster. So that's why that peak performance comes into play here too. You got a level of agitator in there from your headpiece, so you get a little bit of more affinity and damage that way. You got 1 level of counter strike to get another 10 plus raw. So it's not the highest damage stacking build, but it's the best way that I could put together to actually utilize a maxed out Foray and to actually do things with the build that will accompany the Foray to make it more useful, like using the weapon, the poison duration. Affinity is always good, and then the peak performance, just with the type of build it is. It's pretty fun. Try it out, but it's not going to blow your mind, but you're going to have some fun with this build. Okay, let's go into the outro and wrap up this video. Thanks for joining me again today, and we're going to do this for every single title update. Anytime we have any armor or weapons that can make us have better builds, basically. I'm always interested in that kind of things. I'm always looking to test these kind of things. And, a lot of times people figure this kind of stuff out and they keep it as their little gaming secrets or, things like that. And I'm quite the opposite. As soon as I feel like I'm onto something, the first thing I want to do is let everybody know, And that's what my content is going to be based on, just letting you know all the things that we try to figure out in these games. That being said, I mentioned hacks highs several times in this video, other squad mates. Every single squad mate that you see on this video or any video, you'll see the list of other players. They're all in Zero Faints. We have over 400 global hunters that are passionate about gaming, not just this game, Souls games, Tekken, Helldivers, and we're all tired of the vitriol, the toxicity in gaming. So there's just an emphasis on being respectful, and we don't allow anything to do with any kind of sexism, racism, bullying, elitism. If you're in the mood to put a fellow gamer down, then you're not going to be here very long at all. But if you are truly a passionate gamer that have been looking for other passionate gamers to enjoy the games we all love together, then check us out, and feel free to be a part of the process. A lot of us are shy, but feel free to ask your questions, ask for advice, ask for people to hunt with and farm things with you like decos or Fatalis gear. We're all happy to do that kind of stuff. And here comes, I guess, the awkward part of this. I never want to be the guy that tries to sell you things. I feel like you're always advertised nonstop through the rest of our lives, and I don't want to be another person that does that. So you'll never see me hawking a product or selling a membership. I don't ever want there to be like a paywall for any kind of my YouTube channel content. It's for everyone to see and enjoy. That being said, with these things like super chats and things that you can make contributions to a content creator through videos, yeah, I don't really know how to request, I guess is the word, that kind of stuff. But here's my story. I would love to be a full-time content creator. I run my own business, and I do well doing that, so it's not like a money thing, but it's my passion. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life, if you guys would allow me. My wife and I are in the process of saving up to buy a home, and if you know anything about that process, there's a certain time where you just don't want to make any large purchases, and I promised her that I'd be really careful about our spending. But she did say anything I make on YouTube I can use to grow the channel, and I would definitely like to get a PC set up where I can make much better edited videos, really put out the videos that I see in my head and be able to have the abilities to put those out there. Thanks for joining me again. Please like, comment, subscribe, and donate, and see ya!